Hello and welcome back to EFD, where today we're giving you 10 times the Premier League killed a player's career. Here we go. 10. Mesut Özil. He may be everyone's favourite punching bag, but Mesut Özil is one of the most talented attacking passers ever to play in the English top flight. The German has created a chance every 26 minutes for Arsenal across his entire spell in London, ranking in the top 5 in the league for chances created in his first 5 campaigns and finishing top twice. Unfortunately, because of his lack of dynamism and Arsenal's general perception as a team of weaklings, mean that the World Cup winner has often been made the scapegoat for the club's problems. This happened even in the 2015-16 season when he contributed 25 goals and assists in the Prem, a mark only bettered by 4 players. With no reliable defensive midfielder behind him, Özil was often labelled a luxury the Gunners couldn't afford, and more frustratingly, he is just 3 FA Cups and a Community Shield to show for his 230 appearances at Arsenal. Meanwhile, former club Real Madrid have picked up a title and 4 Champions League since their number 10 left. At the time, Cristiano Ronaldo lamented the loss of his best provider, and having excelled under Jose Mourinho, winning La Liga, Özil would surely have thrived in a more structured side with better talent in front of him than Olivier Giroud. Now 30, the former Werder Bremen man is likely to leave Arsenal unwanted and unappreciated, having never earned the trophies or respect his talent deserved. 9. Eliaquim Mangala. Chances are you haven't thought about Eliaquim Mangala in years, but when the Frenchman joined Manchester City in 2014, he was one of the most highly rated young centre-backs in Europe. At the time he was 23 and had won titles in Belgium and Portugal, also appearing in the 2013-14 Europa League Team of the Season. Having made 200 senior appearances before moving to the Northwest, Mangala has made just 117 since, averaging 18 league games a season over the past 5 years. Though he had excelled at Porto, he had enjoyed protection from Danilo and Alexandro in the fullback spots, and in the Premier League, his rashness often left City exposed, with his first 2 seasons seeing the club concede over a goal a game in the Prem, something they had not done in 5 years before he arrived. He was subsequently loaned out to Valencia in the hope of drumming up a buyer, but interest was not forthcoming, with the defender going out to play a peripheral role in City's 2017-18 title win, and then featuring just twice in a year-long loan at Everton. Now 28, Mangala has also slipped out of the French national setup, with 3 caps since 2014, having won 5 before that. According to Transfermarkt, his value was once a high 35 million euros. It is now just 10 million euros. 8. Serhiy Rebrov. A Tottenham signing in 2000, Serhiy Rebrov came to London with exceptional pedigree. The Ukrainian had scored over 20 goals in 4 consecutive seasons before the transfer and won 8 titles in a row with Dynamo Kiev. The club had even reached the Champions League semi-finals the year before, narrowly losing out to Bayern Munich, having beaten Arsenal and holders Real Madrid to reach that point. And in the process, Rebrov and a young forward called Andrei Shevchenko had scored a combined 12 goals, the same as Dwight York and Andy Cole managed on their way to the trophy. The striker was 26, at the peak of his powers, but despite playing 60 league games over the next 2 campaigns, he scored just 10 goals. Tottenham finished 9th and 12th with him in the side, and eventually he lost his place, with manager Glenn Hoddle preferring Teddy Sheringham and Les Ferdinand in attack, both of whom were 35 by that point. The Lily Whites eventually loaned Rebrov out to Fenerbahce and then second flight West Ham, before seeing him leave on a free in 2005, making a loss of £11 million on the forward. He did win a title in Turkey and 2 more in Russia with Rubin Kazan, but he never hit 20 goals in a season again, and only once got into double figures in a league campaign. 7. Michaël Seri. Transfer rumours are often just agents trying to buy a new house, but in 2017, Michaël Seri seemed like he was on his way to Barcelona. The Ivorian was coming off a campaign in which he had registered 7 goals and 9 assists for Nice from the centre of midfield. Though he was hardly a box-to-box player, making just 2 tackles and interceptions a game, it was thought that he could fill the void left by Xavi and Iniesta in the Barca engine room. The deal was all but done, but at the 11th hour, Nice requested more than Seri's agreed €40 million fee, forcing Barca to pull out and Seri to sit out another year in the south of France. And despite links to Arsenal and Liverpool over the following seasons, when his switch eventually came, it was to newly promoted Fulham, who had hoped the midfield could orchestrate a band of expensive lone attackers. Unfortunately, though Seri showed flashes of talent in the Prem, he was involved in just 3 goals in 32 appearances, struggling on a team built for possession but which could only manage 49% of the ball all year. His maiden term ended in relegation, and now Seri, who once dreamed of winning La Liga, must try to help Fulham win the championship. 6. Patrick Kluivert. By 19, Patrick Kluivert had won 7 trophies, including 2 Eredivisie titles and the Champions League. A quick and powerful striker with the impeccable technique typical of Ajax products, Kluivert joined the Amsterdam club at 8 and left at 21 to join Milan before going on to Barcelona after a single season where he won La Liga and scored a goal every other game, as well as reaching the World Cup semi-final with the Dutch national team. But in 2004, having gone 5 years without winning a single trophy, Barca embarked on a squad overhaul, releasing 4 players, and Kluivert was amongst them, despite the forward being just 28. Somehow, Newcastle picked him up on a free transfer. The forward had been impressed by the atmosphere at St James's Park during a pre-season friendly. But it was the Magpies who ended up unhappy with the deal, deciding not to offer Kluivert a second year after he netted just 6 league goals in 25 appearances, even though only Shearer scored more goals for the club. Kluivert would change clubs 3 times in the next 3 years, playing just 51 matches in all competitions in that time, and scoring only 9 goals, half the number he had managed in the debut season for Ajax at the age of 18. He retired in 2008 before his 32nd birthday. 5. Giannelli Imbula. Marcelo Bielsa's time at Marseille may be a distant memory now, but the Argentinian brought through plenty of top talent in his single year at the club. Benjamin Mendy, Florian Thauvin, Michy Batshuayi and Dimitri Payet all flourished under El Loco, but the heart of the team was 22-year-old midfielder Giannelli Imbula, a powerhouse dribbler whose smart defending and excellent distribution made OM the most exciting team in France. Under Bielsa, Imbula won the ball 4 times a game and completed over 3 dribbles per 90, an almost unheard of figure for a central midfielder. As a result, Porto paid €20 million for him, but handed him just 10 appearances in the 2015-16 season before sending him to Stoke. But the Potters didn't seem to appreciate Imbula, as he played just 2,000 minutes in 2 years, his dribbling numbers sliding from an insane 4.4 per 90 at the beginning of his time to 2.4 by the end, while defensive actions fell to 1.5 a game. Imbula was eventually loaned out, and having finished 4th with Marseille and then 3rd with Porto, he came 17th in Ligue 1 with Toulouse and then 20th in La Liga with Rayo Vallecano in 2018-19. Though still an excellent dribbler, he completes fewer passes and win possessions less than ever before, and now at 26, his bright future has become a distant past. 4. Siem de Jong. Another Dutch player, another Newcastle disaster. Signing players from the Eredivisie is always tricky business, but Siem de Jong looked like a solid acquisition for the Magpies in 2014. The attacking midfielder had played nearly 250 times for Ajax, hitting a goal every 3 games and arrived in the Northeast for £6 million on the back of 4 consecutive titles. He boasted 6 caps and had averaged 40 games and 50 goals a year in the 5 seasons before he went to the Prem at the age of just 25. Alan Pardew made de Jong vice-captain immediately, but bad luck prevented him making an impact as a thigh injury ruled him out for 5 months before a collapsed lung enforced another 8 weeks absence. He ended his first year with 5 apps and 1 goal, and though he played 18 times the next season, he failed to score again and missed a stretch of the season, this time because a contact lens got pushed deep into his eye, prompting fears he could lose his sight. Newcastle were relegated, and though de Jong's eye was saved, he was sent back to the Netherlands, spending a season with PSV before Ajax resigned him. However, it turned out that Eredivisie had left de Jong behind too. With Tadic's arrival in 2018, de Jong spent the 18-19 campaign on loan in Australia with Sydney FC, while his teammates won a domestic double and reached the UCL semis. 3. Robinho. Back in the 2000s, it was more unusual for Real Madrid to take a gamble on a Brazilian youngster than it is now. So when Los Blancos spent €24 million to bring the 21-year-old Robinho in 2005, they were certain they had something special. Having scored 56 in his last 2 campaigns in his homeland, the attacker was handed Luis Figo's number 10 shirt and his first year contributed to 13 goals, with only the Brazilian Ronaldo outscoring him in the Real squad. But though Robinho missed just 13 games over 3 years at the Bernabeu, winning 2 titles in the process, Real were hungry for more, and in 2008 made a play for Cristiano Ronaldo, hoping to use Robinho as a makeweight in the deal. When the Portuguese elected to spend 1 more season at Man United, Real offered Robinho a new contract, but he refused. Knowing his value was in decline, the club was forced to accept a €42 million bid from Man City for a 24-year-old who had scored and assisted 19 in 32 La Liga matches that year. His debut in England saw Robinho match that tally, but he fell out with managers Mark Hughes and Roberto Mancini, labelling Manchester an awful place to live. He agitated for a move away, going back to Santos on loan before joining Milan. A title win followed, but Robinho never became the superstar talent promised, and by the time he was 30, he had left Europe's top 5 leagues for good. 2. Luc Nilis. The best Belgian striker you've never heard of, Luc Nilis was lethal throughout the 80s and the 90s. He scored more goals between 1986 and 2000 than his contemporary Romario, who he had replaced at PSV Eindhoven. The forward was twice the top scorer in the Netherlands and was named Eredivisie Player of the Year in 1995, the season an Ajax side containing Edgar Davids and Clarence Seedorf won the Champions League, and the young Ronaldo netted 35 in 36 at the age of just 18. The Brazilian named Nilis his best ever strike partner over Rivaldo, Raul and Ronaldinho, and Nilis also helped develop Ruud van Nistelrooy, the pair netting 103 league goals between them in just 2 seasons together. Having achieved a strike rate of 110 and 164 for the Dutch side, a better goal-to-game ratio than Alan Shearer at Newcastle, Nilis was looking for a last big paycheck in 2000 and joined Aston Villa on a free transfer. The Villains were flying high at that point, having finished in the top 7 in the previous 5 campaigns, and when Nilis netted in his first 2 games for the club, it seemed that he would add the Prem to his list of conquests. But after only 6 weeks at the club, a collision with the Ipswich keeper saw the forward fracture his shin, resulting in a nasty infection and the doctors considering an amputation. The Belgian ended up keeping his leg, but retired shortly after. 1. Oscar. 2012 was an odd year for Chelsea. The club finished 6th, but managed to win the Champions League. They hired Roberto Di Matteo, then sacked him in November, and their transfer business was just as muddled, with Eden Hazard and Azpilicueta arriving, but Romelu Lukaku and Kevin De Bruyne loaned out to make space for Demba Ba and Marco Marin. Stupid! One arrival thought to be a slam dunk was Oscar. The 20-year-old Brazilian arrived at Stamford Bridge fresh home from earning an Olympic silver medal alongside Neymar and Lucas Moura. Chelsea beat Tottenham to his signature, and at the time, his £28 million fee made him the 6th most expensive signing in the club's history. He would go out to register 75 goals and assists in 205 games for the Blues, with Jose Mourinho selling 2-time Player of the Year Juan Mata to accommodate Oscar at the number 10, thanks to his creativity and hard passing. But despite 2 titles and a Europa League, Antonio Conte had no interest in the attacker and put him on the transfer list just months after arriving in London in 2016. Oscar was just 25 at the time, but rather than make a switch to Atletico Madrid or Juventus, as you'd expect today, he headed to Chinese outfit Shanghai SIPG for around £54 million, the 2nd biggest Chelsea sale ever. He has since contributed to 81 goals in 98 appearances, and is still only 27, younger than Hazard and Lacazette. It feels like a wasted career, though with a weekly wage of 400k, we're not sure Oscar would agree. So that was 10 times the Premier League has killed a career. If you think we've missed anyone out or you have any suggestions, get them down in the comments below. And as always guys, check out FD, FDFC and EFD, and especially FDFC, as we've just launched a new strand, Awkward FIFA, which features me. So go check that out. See you guys later.